All right, let's talk about dishonesty. I mean, we all think we have a pretty good handle on it, right? It's lying, stealing, cheating. Pretty straightforward. But what if I told you that most of the cheating in the world isn't done by some cartoon villain, but by regular people? People like you, like me. People who, for the most part, consider themselves good and honest. Yeah, it turns out the real story behind dishonesty is, well, it's way stranger and more interesting than you'd think.
So whenever you hear about some huge corporate scandal, think about Enron back in the day. What's the first thing that comes to mind? For most of us, it's this picture of a few really greedy executives at the top. You know, the classic bad apples who ruined it for everyone. And honestly, it's a comforting idea, isn't it? Because if it's just a few bad people, then the problem isn't really our problem.
And that's the story we tell ourselves, right? The assumption is everywhere. Just find the bad apples, get rid of them, and boom, problem solved. This whole way of thinking leads us to a really simple model for why crime happens. The only issue? As we're about to find out, that simple model, it's just plain wrong.
So this idea has a name. It's called the Simple Model of Rational Crime, or SMORC for short. It basically says that when we decide to do something dishonest, whether it's cheating on our taxes or even just parking in a no-parking zone, we're acting like little accountants. We do a quick cost-benefit analysis in our heads. What can I gain from this, and what's the probability I'll get caught? That's it. Morality, right and wrong, they don't even factor in. It kind of makes sense on the surface, but what happens when you actually test this theory out in the real world?
All right, so that SMORC model, the cost-benefit thing, it seems logical, but when researchers actually started running experiments, what they discovered was something else entirely. Something way more surprising, and honestly, it tells us a lot about how flexible our own morals can be.
So here's the big question. If that rational crime model is true, then more money should equal more cheating, right? I mean, it's just logical. The bigger the reward, the bigger the incentive to bend the rules. Makes perfect sense. So of course, that's exactly what researchers decided to test.
Now, you'd think as the cash prize goes up, the cheating would go through the roof. But look at these results. It's wild. Whether people were offered 50 cents or a whopping $10 for a right answer, the amount of cheating barely changed. It stayed pretty much constant. People were cheating, for sure, but only by a little bit. The big money didn't make them cheat more. So what's going on here?
This is where we get to the heart of it. It shows we're not simple calculators. We're driven by something much more human. It's called the fudge factor. See, we all have these two competing desires. We want to benefit from, being a little dishonest, but at the same time, we really want to look in the mirror and see a good, honest person. So the fudge factor is that sweet spot. It's how we manage to cheat just enough to get ahead, but not so much that we have to admit we're a cheater. It's the ultimate way to have your cake and eat it too.
Okay, so if a pile of cash doesn't really tempt us to cheat more, then what does? Well, it turns out our world is full of these invisible forces, little pushes and pulls that can either expand our personal fudge factor or shrink it down.
This old joke just nails one of the biggest forces perfectly. You've got the dad lecturing his son about the evils of stealing a pencil, and then in the next breath says, "Hey, if you needed a pencil, just tell me. I can bring you a ton from work." See? For the dad, taking a pencil from his son's school is a big moral no-no, but taking them from his own office, that's different. That's the key right there. The more steps we are away from actual physical money, the easier it is to be dishonest. And this isn't just a funny idea, they actually proved it. In college dorms, researchers put two things in the communal fridges. First, a six-pack of Coke. Then, on another day, a plate with 6 $1 bills. What happened? Well, the Cokes vanished within 72 hours. Gone. The cash? Nobody touched a single dollar. It's amazing, isn't it? Because stealing a dollar bill feels like stealing. But grabbing a Coke? That's just grabbing a Coke. Psychological distance in action. Here's another huge factor: mental exhaustion. The best way to think about it is that your willpower is like a muscle. So you start your day strong. You say no to the donut at the morning meeting. At lunch, you force yourself to get the salad instead of the burger. In the afternoon, you fight the urge to just pack up and leave early. Every one of those decisions takes effort. It's like doing a rep at the gym. And by the end of the day, that willpower muscle is just plain tired. It's depleted. And guess what? Experiments back this up completely. They had one group of people do a really mentally draining task first. Another group got an easy one. Then they both had a chance to cheat on a different test. The result? The people who were already mentally tired cheated way more. It's like when our brains are running on fumes, our fudge factor just gets bigger and bigger. So, okay, it's pretty clear that these little things, like being tired or being one step removed from cash, can push us towards being more dishonest. But that leads to a really important and kind of hopeful question.
If small things can make us less honest, can other small things, little nudges, actually make us more honest?
You know, this other joke actually holds a really big clue. It's about a guy who finds his stolen bike right after reciting the 10 Commandments. How? He says, well, when I got to "thou shalt not commit adultery," I remembered where I left it. It's funny, but it points to something profound. Just a simple reminder of some kind of moral code can be enough to jolt us, to make us think about our own behavior.
And believe it or not, when they tested this, the results were just stunning. They had one group try to recall the 10 Commandments before doing a task where they could cheat. The control group just had to remember books from high school. And what happened? In the group that thought about the commandments, cheating disappeared. It was completely gone. And here's the craziest part. It didn't matter if they were religious or not, or even if they could remember a single one. Just the attempt to think about a moral code was enough. And this isn't just a lab trick. It has huge real-world uses. Check this out. One study took a standard expense report form. Normally, you sign at the bottom, right, after you've listed everything? Well, they just moved the signature line to the top, so people had to sign before they filled it out. The result? People claimed almost half as much in expenses. Signing at the top turned it from a bureaucratic chore into a personal promise. It made them stop and think.
So, what does all this really tell us? I think it's this. Honesty isn't some fixed trait that you either have or you don't. It's not like most of us are saints and a few of us are sinners. The truth is, we're all somewhere in the middle. We are incredibly influenced by the situation we're in, constantly trying to find that balance between getting what we want and being the person we want to see ourselves at.
And look, figuring all this stuff out isn't just some fun intellectual game. It's a call to action. Because if our honesty is this flexible, this easily shaped by our environment, then it means we have the power and maybe even the responsibility to start designing better environments. We can create situations in our workplaces, in our communities, that don't just focus on catching the bad apples, but that actually help all of us, nudge all of us toward being our better, more honest selves.